Welcome to CXWise, where we share wisdom, insights, stories, and expertise from the world of customer experience. I'm your host, Nathan Bennett, and you're about to hear real-world experiences and practical advice that will elevate your CX game no matter your title, no matter your industry. So without further ado, let's get wise. My guest today, I am so thrilled to see Andy Crestodina, the CMO and co-founder of Orbit Media Studios. With more than 20 years of digital marketing experience, Andy is a celebrated author. His book, Content Chemistry, is now in its sixth edition. I love this book. It should be the practical Bible for every content creator. Andy is working on his seventh edition, when we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But he's also written over 500 articles covering content strategy, SEO, AI, social media, and analytics. Andy's recognized as a top influencer in content marketing by SEMrush, Top Rank, and others. Andy's commitment to sharing knowledge extends to his roles as an instructor at Northwestern and Harbor Space universities. Outside work, Andy is deeply involved in environmental causes. He co-founded Chicago Cause, an initiative that has donated over $700,000 in digital marketing services to nonprofits. I cannot wait to get into it. Welcome to CXWise, Andy. How are you, man?
I'm glad to be here, Nate. What a great way to start my day. Thanks for the intro.
I hope we embarrassed you with all of your greatness.
Yes.
Good. Excellent. Mission accomplished. One of the questions that we always like to start out with on CXWise is our guests' definition of customer experience, so that we know that we're all talking the same way and about the same thing. So, Andy, how would you define customer experience as it exists today?
I would start earlier than maybe some definitions. The moment that your prospect lands on the thank you page, they convert it from a suspect to a prospect. That moment actually, I think, is the beginning. And CX, broadly defined, would be starting then in that exact second when those pixels load, all the way through to the day that you get to repropose or renew the engagement or the contract. It's every touch point of every person at every one of your clients in aggregate. And it's the most important thing that we do as service providers, and it should be the pure obsession of each one of us. Broad, but critical.
I love the pure obsession. It should be the pure obsession for each one of us. I'm wondering what your focus is as the CEO of a company that you founded. How do you incorporate that level of customer experience for your customers on a practical level?
It's important to connect dots. So what we do when we meet people is we say what we do, and if that turns into an opportunity, we say what we do, but we make it a promise. And then to fulfill that promise, after we have started working together, you have to keep going back to those words, that commitment you made to them in that first day, or that first conversation, or the day that the kicked off meeting started. So, for example, our value prop is that we are a results-driven, performance-driven digital agency focused on websites, website optimization. As such, it's my job to review analytics with each and every client. It's about follow-through, and to make it one through line, it's got to all connect. So that last dot has to really reflect what you promised way back in dot number one.
I'm wondering how AI is now informing customer experience broadly in your viewpoint. Is it truly redefining customer experience in a digital way, in the digital space, or is it just a tool that we think of for content creation and other things? Does it have an impact in customer experience?
We're going to go through a series of evolutions here. And one of the early ones is agencies getting excited about efficiency. I think that era will end because you can become more efficient. It's just going to become a standard thing. And maybe it's a deflationary force affecting rates and margins and sounds all positive. But once we realize that our buyers have access to the same information, you may find that they stop paying you to do things that the lazy prompts you were writing yourself. So I think it's people are trying to quickly squeeze bigger margins out today. But when user behavior begins to change and your clients realize that the prospect themselves, the end user, can type that same prompt in and get that same answer, and user behavior shifts a bit away from search and a bit more toward AI apps, that AI turns out to be a great answer for so many use cases, then the value prop for content marketing changes, the value of websites begins to change. So it will absolutely affect customer experience, marketing, content, just as the whole world begins to realize that you can get an answer in a very clean, private, ad-free experience. And the use of browsers may actually change.
That's interesting. I want to talk about AI and trust, which goes along those lines of what you were just saying. I think in a recent AI consumer readiness survey, you found that 69% of respondents show interest in their creative agencies using AI tools. Can we, as leaders, as content creators, as marketers, really trust AI to help with those decisions and strategies? And if we can, how do we see that working practically?
Nate, this is the space to watch. We may be in a moment where the buyer of creative services is saying to themselves, I want someone to do this by hand because I keep seeing headlines that AI is biased and inaccurate. And 2 years from now, that exact same person may be saying, wow, I hope my agency uses AI to do this because I don't want to waste money having them go through and do this process manually. So when does the expectation of the B2B service buyer change from this sounds worrying to, hey, this is baked into my day. I hope that they're using it too. I don't want to pay for anything. I don't want to pay my attorney to go do something manually if they could have done it quickly. I'm paying them by the hour. So it is a fascinating moment in digital, watching how these brands, I don't really see AI baked into people's marketing messages yet, but that should happen soon. And then the question is, how do you embrace this technology and do so in a value proposition in a way that increases trust with your buyer? My best guess today is it sounds something like this. I'll do it for myself. We design, write, and program websites, and we use every tool available to make us as efficient as possible and to drive results for you as high as possible. And as such, we use AI for research. We are committed to data-driven empathy, and among the many tools that we use, including manual stakeholder interviews with our prospects or with our clients, we also use AI to offer another input. AI stands for another input. It's not abdicating, not getting rid of my job, but of course we use every tool, every trick we can to get closer to your audience, to push performance ever higher. AI is one of those tools.
Can I plagiarize that word for word? I'm going to go back. I'm going to listen to this conversation. I'm going to write everything down because that was great.
Probably, yeah. We'll all sound like that. It won't be that different by the time that you and I honestly, the shift from this is innovative to this is status quo is happening so fast, Nate, that yeah, you and I could throw that in our value props, and 6 months from now, it'll just be completely undifferentiated. It tastes like water.
It tastes like water. It's funny. You just said another input, and I love the little sound bites of you of what you like to say AI stands for. In addition to artificial intelligence, I know one of them is another input, meaning that it's the ability to provide insights beyond human capabilities, obviously. So what strategies can businesses use to train AI models so that they exceed customers' expectations?
Oh, I love this one. I think there are great ways to use AI to get another input. Of course, check it, don't trust it, look closely at it. You're the strategist, it's just a tool. But that the best strategies start with a bit of training where you teach the AI who your target audience is. I think it is absurd that people keep writing these short, lazy prompts and expecting AI to write a thing that will be resonant with my audience. It doesn't know who you're talking to. So it's a multi-step process. When I teach this, it's not like a single prompt. It's called Chat GPT because you're supposed to have a conversation with it.
Chat with it, yep.
Chat with it, talk to it. It's about the subsequent prompts where you really get value. But it begins, in my experience, and my best advice for anyone listening, if you got one thing to take away from this conversation, it's that start by uploading a persona or ICP, or using a persona prompt to have it quickly create an artificial member of your audience. Fix that because it might not be perfectly accurate. Yes, of course, don't trust it. We're going to fix it. And then ask it to help you brainstorm, ask it to review a web page, ask it to write a social post, ask it to research influencers or write calls to action or create a drip campaign, whatever it is. It's all going to be better, way better, if you first start with that persona prompt. Build me a persona of a job title, in an industry, in a geography, with a challenge and an objective, and list their hopes and dreams, their fears and pain, their emotional triggers, and their decision criteria for selecting a company like ours. That persona it generates in 2 seconds will be probably named Alex. It's almost always named Alex. And then it will be a little bit wrong. Another one, AI let's just change it. Let's just say it stands for assume incorrect.
There it is.
Assume it's
there
incorrect.
There's another one.
Assume it's incorrect. And then go fix it because it's not correct. And then the other one, Nate, you might like is that if you don't do this first, I joke that AI stands for average information.
Average information. Yep.
It literally just read the internet and it comes back and gives you the average of the internet until you tell it who you're talking to. Expect poor results. After you tell it who you're talking to, you will be surprised at how on target it can be. And then go fix it, improve it. It was a research tool. It was helpful. It's 70% garbage. So what? 30% gold. Great. And then go do your job. It's a very useful tool in that way. But notice, I wasn't really trying to save half an hour. I'm trying to create a customer experience that is 10x what my competitors are doing. I'm trying to be disarmingly helpful and forthright and useful citizen of the internet. So that is that approach is. I would not be very interested in AI if I couldn't do that first and and see the impact at that level. It's quite good.
That's a springboard nicely into something else I wanted to unpack with you. This concept that you wrote about in one of your articles called the content audience fit. I'm wondering, and I've also heard you say that it's about teaching AI not only who your audience is and what they need and also what they don't like, but also how to sound like you. So I'm wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about how AI can create those personas, both the brand voice, to improve the content strategy and quality, and then tell us a little bit more about teaching AI what their audiences don't like.
Yeah. So let's say you go through this mini exercise and you upload a battle-tested, sales-tested ICP, or you have it create a simple persona for you. And now you've got a persona and you're talking to it whenever you want. It's very helpful. You can talk to it about pricing. You can give it your sales scripts. You can use it to give feedback on anything. But I wouldn't necessarily have it write anything for you, even a draft. If you want it to be on point with your brand, you should do a separate training where you give it 100 articles and then tell it to create a draft in that same tone of voice, style, in that aligned with that type of formatting, the length of paragraphs, the number of bullet points, the structure of anything. It's just not very good at creating content that feels like me until I give it a ton of me, and then it can come back and write something that's much closer. I don't really do that myself day to day. If you want to do that, you can use a custom GPT, which is helpful because now it has like basically your brand standards. That is really, who needs a style guide? Style guides should probably go away in the future, and instead you have a custom trained GPT that talks, that is your style guide. A style guide is just a boring, it could be way more helpful if it was a trained GPT instead of just like a PDF file. So yeah, literally take the 2.5 hours to copy and paste 100 articles into a giant PDF and then upload that, and then ask it to write a style guide and tell it, save that training data in that custom GPT, and then go, anyone that on your team that ever wants to write something that kind of fits with your tone, just have them create the draft in there or upload a draft of that and have it revise. Works great.
As somebody who spent so much time last year writing a style guide, I don't know how I feel about what you just said. I feel, should have just done that.
It's a little weird. The future of some of these deliverables, creative briefs, personas, style guides, they are really properly just, if nothing else, AI friendly, where you can upload them, where they're more useful. I've had clients send me, like, you can tell they worked for weeks on it, like this PowerPoint deck that's got 6 personas in it and it's very detailed. And what's my best move next, right? Is it to like read this carefully and try to ingest it and hold in my brain like the 65 things that are all here? I can try that, and I can do a decent job if I'm very skilled in aligning content and messaging with personas. I can also upload that to ChatGPT and then give it whatever I thought, or give it a draft and have it give me feedback, another input. So yeah, I think these are the future of many of the creative company deliverables are actually going to be unified documents that can be uploaded as training data to AIs. And it's good for efficiency, but even better, it's good for quality.
No, that's great advice. And I'm also wondering, from your perspective as a storyteller and somebody who has decades of digital marketing experience, there's a tension, I think, between, let me say this, there's a tension of brand storytellers, marketing storytellers, dealing with the challenge of creating compelling narratives, but also making sure that they show up in search results, especially with so much AI generated content out there. What is your advice for those people who are trying to tell compelling narratives for their brands in order to stick out? Can we still stick out in this age?
Yeah, if you set the idea of storytelling aside for a minute and think about the true story in the life of your visitor. There's a person there who, or your client's visitor, something happened that triggered that moment. Google used to call it the 0 moment of truth. They ask for help from a friend, they get a referral, or they go search. Either way, they land on a web page. Web page loads, right? Pixels appear on the screen. Their eyes look at these pixels. What happens next? They're looking at your site, they're looking at my site. You were more empathetic. You knew more of their questions. You wrote something that aligned more with their objections, with their fears, with their hopes, with their goals. And then you did a better job of adding evidence to support those answers. I wrote a page that maybe was on brand, but it was really like me talking about me. We're number one.
Sure.
The differentiation that happens today in the most profitable interactions with humans on web pages are the pages that emulate a sales conversation. Yes, there are narrative elements, but it's not really, lead generation, in my experience, is not mostly about narratives and storytelling. It's mostly about emulating a sales conversation, answering the most important questions, addressing the most important objections, supplying evidence to support each of those answers, filling the page with evidence and proof points, and then a clear, specific, compelling, low commitment call to action. Answer, evidence, call to action. I could write a beautifully constructed narrative, but the visitor doesn't care about the story as much as they care, could this be a fit for me? That's been my experience. That's what I see in analytics accounts. That's a counter narrative opinion on storytelling versus the sales emulation on web pages. Food for thought.
No, I think that's really interesting. There's that could be a whole nother episode of CXWise to dive into that, but I'll try to keep myself on track. But you're firing off a lot of questions for me. It makes me think of, I love that you've said best practices are good hypotheses. So what are the different ways in which you evaluate the impact of AI-driven SEO strategies?
There are best practices that you've learned and I've learned and that SEO or all kinds of people use all the time. AI can help you do some of those things. For example, I've got a hypothesis. If I find all the phrases for which I rank but don't appear on the page and include those in my copy, I'll rank higher for those and for many other phrases by having more keyword-focused copy. Hypothesis. I have done this dozens of times and found it to be a very safe hypothesis or a likely strong case for best practices. So you go to Google Search Console, you export a list of every phrase for which a URL ranks. You take the web page, you copy it out of there, maybe put it in a PDF or a text file or just put the text right into AI. If you give AI a list of phrases for which you rank and the copy of that page and ask the AI to recommend copy edits that would better include those phrases, prioritizing the phrases that aren't on the page but are in the data set, it will actually do an excellent job of recommending copy edits that will improve the relevance of a web page. Some of them will be bad. You can ignore those. Some of them will be very useful. Some of them will be even better for readers, right? I'm not doing keyword stuffing. My prompts always prioritize my human reader. It basically says prioritize recommendations that are in the data set but not on the web page. Recommend changes that improve the flow and clarity of the copy while better indicating relevance for these key phrases. And then you look back, you look at it and you're reading through it and you're like, wow, these are all quite good. It is an amazing tool for generating language. It's good. I don't know. Try it for yourself. But that's a hypothesis. Best practices, old best practice, right? That's something people have done for decades. Is it effective? Try for yourself, right? Every best practice is just a good hypothesis. You should go try it for yourself, see if it worked. If it worked, great. Make it part of a standard.
I love that. Can you give us, I know you've worked with so many brands. Who's doing that really well now, in your opinion? What brands are doing that really well?
You actually would never know which brands can
That's fair.
Because you couldn't really see. But I'll give you an example of a brand that's being held up in a lot of conferences and content as being good at search. If you look at it, Healthline, it's like a medical advice website. It's like a WebMD competitor. Yeah. WebMD, here are the players. WebMD was first and the leader for a long time. And then Cleveland Clinic and Mayo Clinic built big content teams. Talk to Amanda Todorovich sometime. She'll tell you her team is like 80 people. It's an amazing content program. 1 billion page views. Like, it's a super successful program.
Wow.
Healthline, challenger brand, much smaller player. But the content is all of these brands, right? They know what they're doing. And they're continuously optimizing their content. You can see it. It's dated. It shows you the date that it was edited. So you got to assume that those people are using keyword data and including phrases where there is some keyword performance, but maybe didn't appear on the page, and adding entire sections, not just copy edits, but building out these pages to be ever more detailed. I'd say Healthline and Cleveland Clinic are two of the good ones.
Okay, that's great. And I personally, I want to ask you a question just because I want to know the answer to it. I know you've spoken about this quite a bit. What are some of the top mistakes? If you had to give me top 3 mistakes that you see large brands making on their websites, I wonder what those 3 things might be, 3 or 5, however many you want to give us. And how would AI contribute to resolving those issues or fixing those problems? And I think this may lead into a next question about what you're adding to the 7th version of your book. But I'll start out by saying, what are mistakes that are being made by websites that you see pretty commonly? And then how might AI have resolved those issues or fixed those issues?
Yeah, it's easy to spot low-hanging fruit opportunities on web pages because marketers fall into these traps. A lot of us got into the business because we wanted to be creative. And we, like wordsmiths, love a clever turn of phrase. So I would say one of the top mistakes I see on web pages everywhere is that they're just too clever. The visitor doesn't care. I'm sorry, the visitor doesn't care about your tagline. Clear is better than clever 100% of the time. There's nobody goes to a website to see how clever the writing is. Now, I'm saying that a bit strongly. I love clever copy too, but make the case for me that we should be clever but a bit ambiguous or even confusing.
Clever is good, but not at the sacrifice of clarity.
Just be clear.
Yeah.
Just remember why this person has information needs. The first question of every visitor to every web page is, am I in the right place? Is this the right page for me? And every page has a back button. You cannot remove that feature, the UX feature on 100% of our websites. So I would say that's one of the very first things. Now, there are mega brands that are household names that don't have to worry about this because everyone knows what they do. I'm not talking about those brands. I'm talking about the mortals out there, the normal brands, the smaller players like us.
Yeah.
Okay. Mistake number 2, I think that a lot of pages just, if you have a web page, scan down and ask yourself, could a startup that was born yesterday write this same page? Frequently, yes. I see major players, 50 million in revenue. And you scan down the page and it's just a big pile of unsupported marketing claims. Yeah. There's literally nothing there that a brand new startup couldn't say. So how do you solve that problem? It's mostly evidence. Years in business, logos of companies you've worked with,
sure,
media placements. You've got testimonials, case studies, statistics, that video that shows your pictures of your team. You're the only company with your people. Perspectives of your executives or leaders if you can't get testimonials. Just scan down really and ask yourself, like, how many things on this page are truly unique, completely specific to us? How many of these points of view are points of view that only we have? Do we have any counter-narrative opinions that we've expressed here? Or do we have any data points? I talk to people all the time. I talked to a company 2 weeks ago. They were doing, it's like air brakes for trucks. That's interesting. But this page looks like anybody could have made it. How many air brakes have you put on the roads? It was like, they have 90% market share. The answer was millions. Like the entire trucking industry runs on their product, but you couldn't tell. There was no indication of that at all. I could have started an air brake company and written the exact same page. So we'll make that number 2. The third mistake, common mistake, I'll just say this about content marketing, but people make that's just not nearly visual enough. Try to make sure in every article you write for the rest of your career that there's something of interest at every scroll depth. Any page, actually, any URL. You cannot overstate how visual the internet is and how important it is to keep people engaged. Video, diagram, just charts, like anything that will keep that person on the scrolling, scanning through, looking for that nugget that's relevant to them. So yeah, a lot of content just isn't visual enough.
No, I love that. And speaking of visual content, I absolutely have to talk about your book, Content Chemistry. This is version 6, and I know you are working on version 7. Again, let me just say, when you open this, it's highly visual. It is packed with so much great information, but it almost feels like a good scroll in a way. And being such a visual person, I gotta say, like, it's helped me out tremendously. I am looking forward to version 7 coming out, and I'm wondering if you could give us a little bit of insight into what you're adding for that upcoming version.
Sure. Yeah. First, thank you for the kind words.
Thank you for the book,
really
man.
hard. Yeah, it's a big job, as you can tell.
Oh my gosh.
It's one of those examples. Big content as a format, highly differentiated. Like, you can go to a conference or start your own conference. That's highly differentiated. You can cite research or create your own original research. It's highly differentiated. Books are the same. As a strategy, I recommend
For sure.
it. The new edition will not be more visual. All of the Universal Analytics references have been updated for GA4. So that was just needed. And I saw it coming and was planning on that. So all of the charts are now updated. All the methods, all the descriptions, all the terms for things are now in the new analytics language. But also AI came along. So what we did was, where there are best practices, we turned those into prompts. And most of the book has prompts most of the chapters have prompts in them. So where it says, here, make a content marketing mission statement, which should include the target audience, the topics, and the benefit to the reader. Now I've got a prompt in there where you can just take that prompt and use that and have AI draft for you a content marketing mission statement and adapt it to be an email sign-up call to action. So adding the prompts to that made it just more, I think will make it more valuable, because a lot of the methods in there that I described are things that now you can do with AI if you just take the prompt from the book and use that as a starting point.
How do you plan to integrate AI further into your SEO initiatives? And do you see any upcoming AI-powered SEO trends that you're excited about exploring?
Yeah, I think that all the tools out there allow you to export data. And I'm very interested in the overlap between the data from a tool and my synthetic audience member, this AI-generated persona. Moz has a new keyword suggest tool. Okay, cool. It suggests a bunch of keywords. But if I just take that and scan through it, I can, as a human, try to figure out which of these might work for my audience. But if I want to get a faster perspective, I can take that export, upload it to AI, and say, based on my persona's information needs, which of these am I most likely to click on? Now, the future of SEO is actually you know what I'm reminded of? You might appreciate this, Nate. Remember Almost Famous, the movie?
I love it. One of my favorite movies.
Yeah.
Cameron
It's so
Crowe.
good.
Yeah.
Yep.
So good.
And there's this little monologue where Philip Seymour Hoffman says it's a dangerous time for rock and roll.
Yep.
I think of that line. This is a dangerous time for rock and roll. So what I mean by that is that there are everything. It's a dynamic category, right? Digital marketing. It's always in flux. But right now, it's especially interesting because we have this. The tools give you exports. AI is useful for analyzing that data or for generating drafts, but then your audience themselves can just go ask AI for that answer and get that answer. But what's fun about this now is that if you take that, so you've trained it on your persona, you export a report from SEMrush or Moz or Ahrefs or MarketMuse or whatever, upload that to AI and start talking to it about the data. What is my persona? Which of these topics, which of these keywords is most likely to be interesting to my persona? And I think the change that has to happen in our minds as SEOs is we have to stop thinking about intent as information intent, commercial intent. We have to start thinking about, does this keyword have visit website intent? Because a lot of us are targeting phrases where that person doesn't actually want to go to a website, they just want a quick answer. So you have to go deeper into your topics. AI can help, maybe upload data to AI or just work with your team and ask yourself, like, which of these topics and which of these keywords is so meaty that my audience can't get a quick answer from the top of a Google search result? And so they're going to click and scan down or watch a video or read this like 4,000 word process for best practices. That is really where we're going to be more secure in search as a driver of traffic. Search is not sending people to websites as much as it used to because search results themselves have the answer. AI is going to be the same type of disruption. AI is going to just give them an answer. They don't need to go to a website. But for lots of phrases, people still know they need to visit a website. They still want to read deeply. They want to know the values of that company. They want to know what's a fit for that service. They want to see who's working there. So make your content more human, cover topics in a more comprehensive way, and target key phrases that have visit website intent. In other words, they're not just someone looking for a quick answer.
I love that. And my last question, if you could unpack this, you told me a story once about a client that you had, very specific sort of business that they were in, and they had created a website that you were reviewing, or maybe you had created it for them. You can get my story straight. But you used AI to find out the things that were missing from that website that their audience really needed to know and that their audience was actually really concerned with, and it had just been missed. Can you tell that story for our listeners and unpack that a little bit more, because that really relates to customer experience?
Yeah, I feel bad. We should have started with this because it's so powerful and so valuable and so fast.
I know. That's why I wanted to keep it to the end, because I love this so much.
Yeah, we'll have to tell people up front. Hang up.
Just wait to the end.
Yeah. Okay, so you've given it your persona, and you know and so AI now knows what your persona's information needs are. Now, go to Chrome and install a plugin called like Awesome Screenshot or Go Full Page, and export from Chrome a full page screenshot of one of your most important URLs. Service page, product page. Now, if you upload that to AI and say, to what extent does this page meet or not meet the information needs of this persona, it will tell you what you missed. It will tell you all of the unmet information needs of your visitor on that web page. Insanely useful, because that's the job of a conversion optimization pro, is to satisfy your visitor's information needs.
All right.
The specific example was like a chiropractic school. The AI generated persona expressed some concerns about, is the school accredited? That's important. How long does it take to get a degree as a chiropractor? That's important. And we uploaded the page, and those things were there, but they were farther down, like they weren't really addressed specifically. Before the end of the meeting, during the call, the client cracks open WordPress, updating the top of that page. Get your degree in 3 years from an accredited chiropractic university. Click save. That page was better at that day. There wasn't a debate about it. They didn't go ask for approval. It was like,
that's great.
Every unmet information need of your prospect hurts your conversion rates. Your job is to find and plug those holes. AI is a very useful tool for finding gaps. AI-powered persona-driven gap analysis is one of the fastest ways to use AI for better lead gen. Anyone can do it. You can do it today.
I love it. And one last time before we leave, one of the things that we like to do at CXWise is we like to continue giving out the wisdom that you've provided to the world, to our listeners. So, listeners, you've heard so much great content from Andy today. Post one takeaway that you've heard on today's show, tag it, hashtag CXWise, and we will send you a copy of Andy's book, Content Chemistry. Depending upon when you tag us, you'll have either version 6 or version 7. I got to tell you, for any content creators, this is an absolute must-have. It is so easy to digest. I bookmark it, I highlight it, I dog-ear it. It's on my desk constantly. And because of those things, Andy, you have made us all CX wiser, and I really can't tell you how much we appreciate your time, wisdom, work, and insights. So thank you so much, my friend. Thanks for being with us today.